With that, I will be opening an information meeting. Steve Trout, the Elections Director of the Office of the Secretary of State, Bev Clarno, is here to provide the committee with an update on preparations for the general statewide election. Mr. Trout, thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Steve Trout, State Election Director, and thanks for having me. 43 days until Election Day, and we've already got ballots in play and a lot of activity taking place. All of our military and overseas ballots were mailed last week, it's about 15,000. And so, that's a federal legal requirement to get those in the mail at least 45 days. We also sent out earlier this summer a postcard to all of those military and overseas voters just to let them know to try and make contact, given that we know in some places in the world mail delivery is really slow or, is taking an extraordinarily long time. And so helping to create some contact there with them so that they can contact our office, the individual county offices, to give them options. Because if we can get in contact with them, we can give them, options to either, download their ballot and mail it back, fax it back, email it back, all according to statute. And so, really been recognizing the challenges that some of our military and overseas voters had in the primary with mail deliveries, that we really didn't have time to do any outreach before that, because we were mailing ballots to them here in early April, and we were just learning the impacts of things. But we've had good response to that, and so we're trying to do all we can to help those that are military and overseas to be able to participate in this election. Here in the next hour, we'll send our first books of the voters pamphlet to the printer. And so that that process is gone well, and we're right on schedule, and expect those voters pamphlets to be delivered in homes October 7th, 8th, and 9th, a week before the voter registration deadline and the date when ballots are mailed out. So that's good news. We've put on the table of contents a notice for anyone that's displaced or impacted by the wildfires to go to our website, oregonvotes.gov/fires, where we'll keep that information updated in this fluid situation, and also to be able to contact their county election officials so that we can have that most up-to-date information available for them. With respect to the fires, we've been working really closely with our great partners here locally at the United States Postal Service. I get daily updates as far as the impacts on post offices. We've had one burn in the state, and we had a number that were evacuated. As of this morning, at our latest update, we're down to having only 8 that have been that are still evacuated, and that number is getting smaller every day, which is good. The great thing about the Postal Service is they have contingency plans and continuing COOP plans that they're able to, if one post office is closed or evacuated, they're able to have that mail go to a nearby post office to be able to continue to get things delivered. And so been working really closely with the post office to get that information out to the counties and help us to kind of identify those areas that are most impacted so that we can try to reach out to voters and give them the options that they have. Thankfully, we're still 6 weeks out from Election Day, and so even though things are going to be fluid, it gives us more opportunity to communicate and to get the word out, and for them to get their ballots, or even for those post offices to open back up. I know the one post office that was destroyed, post office already has plans to get a temporary building up there, or trailer, or something to be able to serve the voters and all the citizens in that area to make sure that they can get their mail. So that's been something again that we weren't planning on, but I really feel like our county clerks have a great handle on this, especially those counties that are most impacted by the fires. Hopefully this doesn't, impact more counties, but we're prepared for that, whatever happens here the rest of this summer. And just want all the voters, all Oregonians that are registered to vote, that you're still going to be able to get your ballot. We'll have multiple ways for you to be able to access that and participate. And again, we set up that website, OregonVotes.gov/fires, that will keep current information and keep that as updated as much as possible. So I've got a little bit more, but looks like there's a couple questions, so I'll pause here and happy to entertain that.
That'd be great. I see Senator Girard with his hand up, and then Senator Dembro. Are you next in the queue? Okay. Senator Girard.
Sure, and I might need just a little bit more information, because hundreds, if not 1,000 or more, people lost their permanent homes. And so they're just transient. The insurance companies are paying it, so a lot of people are living in motels right now, and then they have no real place to go. And so I'm trying to think in my head how we're going to get ballots to these people when they really honestly don't even know if they have a home to go back to. A lot of them don't. But if they don't, I know you have your website, but how are we going to deal with people that are just transient, that really don't have an address since everything's been destroyed? And I just need more information.
Sure, and Mr. Chair, Senator Girard, thank you, and I mean, this is just heartbreaking for numbers and a great disaster, and we recognize that that's the crisis right now, and getting the ballot for an election in 6 weeks, that's probably not at the top of concerns to take care of today, but we do have plans, and I think the biggest opportunity is if we know who those people are, and we can find out where they are, then it's easy. We can mail them a ballot. We can tell them where to go to get one. Depending on where they're displaced, they'll have different options, because any mail that's not able to be delivered is held at that local post office. So those that live within that post office's scope are able to go in and access that. They can contact their county clerk to be able to figure out how they can get the ballot, at what locations and when. And so, right now we're trying to work on finding those people that have been displaced and talking to the, to our partners at the post office. They're starting to be able to gather a list of those homes that have been destroyed, or those places where mail cannot be delivered, and so they can give that information to us and the county clerks, so that then we can use whatever means we have to reach out to them. Hopefully we've got an email or a phone number for them in the voter file, so we can reach out to them and say, hey, where are you? How can we help? How can we get the ballot to you? And so those are the kind of tools that we have available to be able to find the voters where they are. And as time goes on here over the next couple of weeks, hopefully some of these people that have been displaced have a better idea of where they're going to be temporarily. Then we can help to focus on them. But the one thing to remember is, even if you're displaced, you can still be registered at that home, even if your home is destroyed. If you have an intent to return there, to rebuild or whatever, you can remain registered there, and we'll get you the ballot for the contest that you're able to vote on from that location.
So in the queue, I have Senator Dembro and Senator Boquist and Senator Burdick.
Yes, thank you. Steve, thanks for all that work that you're doing in terms of outreach to deal with people who've been displaced. We also, along the lines of challenges, COVID still brings challenges, and, a more sort of routine challenge that we face at this time of year is making sure everybody's registered to vote. And normally, it seems like every place you go, you would find somebody with a clipboard reminding you that you need to register to vote. You need to do that a month before, or several weeks before the deadline. And so what are you doing to sort of take the place of those, all those volunteers who would normally be out there with the clipboards? How are you using social media? Do you plan to do sort of regular announcements? Are there, is there anything that, DMV can be doing? Because again, there too, that's a normal place where people sign up, but fewer people are using that resource. So could you talk a little about the effort to get people registered?
Sure, Mr. Chair, Senator Dembro, the good news is that over 90% of those in Oregon that are eligible to register are registered. We've done a really good job keeping up with that. That being said, this is, the presidential election year is the most participated and there's the most interest. And so, we've got our online tools to be able to register, OregonVotes.gov/register. But yes, the social media companies are actively engaged, and I will say for the first time partnering with us. In previous elections, they would just put information out. But even this morning, I was working with Facebook on, they're going to have 3 or 4 different campaigns here over the next month tied to voter registration, and to make sure that the information they're sharing for those in Oregon is specific to Oregon, so that it doesn't create confusion and gets a lot of attention and activity. I think more so than ever, there's people that want to help and to get the word out, and so there's a lot of that happening on social media. Frankly, there's a lot of people that are mailing forms to people, that causes us some problems just because, the list that they're using may be old, and so they're sending a voter registration card to somebody that's been registered for a couple years, and it's like, well, did my registration get changed? And so that's a lot of what we're dealing with, and part of the challenge of good intentions out there. And so we're really trying to push people to our, to our trusted site, OregonVotes.gov, and then, that's what we've been having the social media companies push to as well in their alerts and the banner ads that they're putting in around voter registration deadlines and the like.
Not to have dripping sarcasm here or like a Zuckerberg slam, but somehow Facebook and accurate election information somehow seem like an oxymoron. So
Mr. Chair, it's really interesting because, after, 2 years ago at the National Association of State Election Directors, it was a very uncomfortable session where Facebook and Twitter came before us because we beat them up pretty hard on that because they were putting bad information out. And I think, and I can say that they're trying a lot harder and reaching out to us to make it specific. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not, but at least, I'm getting to see and to make tweaks to and make sure they're putting the right links up there so that voters aren't discouraged or sent to the wrong place. So, we know they're going to do something and they're well-intentioned. We're just trying to have more of a say in what those messages are.
Thanks, Steve. Senator Boquist.
Thank you, Senator Wagner. I strangely find myself agreeing with you about Facebook. But that being said, I would point out that I did type in, and Steve can talk about here with the question, I just simply flipped to Google, which even in the legislature in the building is hard to find because they send us all over other places, and typed in Oregon voter registration, and the first thing that came up is the Secretary of State's webpage that says Oregon online voter registration. So just as a reminder and a plug, and Steve can do it, is citizens who are concerned they're not registered or they've moved or something can both check that online or register online. So that's one thing for some of the public to note. The second thing I would note that even my post offices, none of mine closed. Unfortunately, they're all mostly in Senator Girard's district, but my post offices all have signs on their door now saying if you formerly got mail from one of these 7 post offices that Steve mentioned, your mail now is available at the Lyons post office. You can go collect it there. And as Steve I think second too, as we go a little bit farther here, is that people who are concerned that they either aren't online or can't vote also should go to their county clerk or their county courthouse so they can vote to ensure that happens. And I'd like Steve maybe to talk a little bit about online registration. And then he didn't give all the kudos to the post office and the county clerks who have been working together now for years. So on election day at 5 p.m., the local county clerk gets all the ballots from the post office, including those that might not be in their county, to ensure that they all count. So our clerks and the post office have been working very well together now for years on making sure every ballot counts here. Am I missing something here, Steve?
No, Mr. Chair, Senator Boquist, thanks for that that plug, because our partnership with USPS is phenomenal. You know, with the counties, you know, and I've been getting a lot of calls for the last 6 months from other states that want to go through this. And, you know, every single time on the very first call I have with a different state that wants to do this, it's like, you need to call your local and your regional postal officials today, because you can't succeed at this if they're not true partners. And so I really believe, and I've seen the evidence of our postal officials here in Oregon, and the delivery people, and the people at the sorting facilities, and everybody really makes the election a priority. They really feel a part of the election team, and they're an integral part. And so, as you say, the counties are able to pick up at the post office, even the day before, to make sure that ballots aren't stuck in a truck going from Portland to somewhere that takes, extra time to deliver. And so, we've really, every election, even after doing vote by mail exclusively for 20 years and almost 40 years in different phases, we continue to learn things and learn things that we can do to help to count more people's votes and get more ballots processed. And so, and again, that's because of the great work of the county election team and our postal partners. And so thanks for flagging that and helping to get the word out, because they do a phenomenal job. And I know there's been a lot of noise about the post office nationally. I'm sure there's going to be some challenges in some states that have never done vote by mail before. But I just want to assure Oregonians that, here in Oregon, our postal people prioritize ballots. They give us better service than we're supposed to get and have for a long time. And so, we're going to, the election here in November is going to be just like it was in May, where we had a record 1.3 million, voters return their ballots. We're not seeing any changes in delivery timelines or challenges. I mean, really, the biggest challenge is these post offices that have been evacuated, but there's already contingency plans in there to make sure that things move forward. So, Oregonians should have confidence that no matter what's being talked about elsewhere in the country, that our relationship with the post office they're part of our team, and they make this happen, and they're going to make it happen again here for November 3rd, just like they have in the past.
So, question from Senator Burdick, and let me ask Tyler: do we lose this line at 4? How does that exactly work? I know we're at the hour here, so I just want to make sure we don't somehow switch off. And I know that we're at time, but.
I think we're still live here.
Okay.
And there's no one going after us, so.
All right. Well, we'll be sensitive to folks' time. It's been a long afternoon, but Senator Burdick, question.
Okay, just a couple of questions and just short answers. I assume from your earlier comments that whatever arrangements the post office is doing for mail for the people who have been burned out of their homes, like taking it and holding it at the post office, can I assume that the ballots will be treated, the voter's pamphlet and the ballots will be treated no differently? Because I know they can't be forwarded, but they will be held at the post office just like any other piece of mail?
So, Mr. Chair, Senator Burdick, yes, and normally they'll keep something for 14 days, but they've agreed to keep that through Election Day. So an extra few days to make sure for those ballot materials that it won't get returned. So yes.
Great. My second question is, the Trump administration is basically, in many states, has declared war on vote by mail. And I was wondering, we do have a Republican Secretary of State. I was wondering if you have experienced any pressure nationally on our vote-by-mail system?
So, Mr. Chair, Senator Burdick, I have not received any pressure, political pressure. Again, my job is the nonpartisan election administration. I will say that we've been having calls with other states since early March. My phone started ringing off the hook after things shut down, and people wanted to know how are we going to do vote by mail. And so I called my counterpart in Washington State, and I said, I'm sure your phone's ringing off the hook as well. Instead of each of us having 30 calls, let's have one conference call where people can ask their questions. And so we started doing that on Friday mornings, and we continue to do that today. And so been able to share best practices, build some understanding, let them know of challenges and lessons learned that we've had over the years, because this isn't something that other states can just flip a switch and make happen. We've been working to perfect this for a long time and continue to do that. And so at the same time, I'm trying to help them all, learn from lessons learned that we've had, so that so it'll be smoother for them. But they're, if they've only ever had 5% voting by mail, and now they're going to go to over 50%, there's going to be some growing pains. But they're up to the task, and they're doing their best to make it happen for the voters.
Okay, well, I'm, as an Oregonian, I'm really proud that we have such a bipartisan supported system. Your boss, the Secretary of State, has been wonderful about stepping out nationally in support of our system. And I think this will be a learning experience for the whole country. So I'm glad you're reaching out to other election officials.
Thank you.
Well, we are at time. I appreciate it, Steve. I know you probably have a lot more that you have on your agenda between now and, Election Day, let alone beyond.
Actually, December 14th, this will be over after the Electoral College vote.
Yeah. Just a little bit of the folks that think in those terms, but I would reiterate Senator Burdick's comment that whether or not it's from Kiesling to Bradbury to Brown to Richardson to Clarno, we've always had such great representation about how Oregon has led the nation in doing vote by mail, and it's really nice to see you and Secretary Clarno doing such a great job. And I'm assuming that you will get a lot of questions. You'll probably get a lot of questions from a lot of us, as we have constituents who get questions. So I guess maybe that would be my final question, is what is the best way that our offices can work with you in terms of providing accurate election information between now and November 3rd?
No, and Mr. Chair, I appreciate that, because my biggest concern in all of this is the misinformation that's out there. No matter what the source, and there's a lot of it, and there's going to be a lot more. And so I feel for the voters, because it's hard. They're going to have to navigate and figure out what to believe and what to do. And so we want to help you to be able to help those constituents with questions. And so again, just shoot us an email, and my staff's working remotely, but that's the best way to get to us, and then we can get a response to you to help your constituent quickly.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you, everyone. I want to remind everyone who's watching that any interested party may submit written testimony to the committee exhibit email, which is srules.exhibits@oregonlegislature.gov. If you Google through our Oregon Legislative Information System, you can find that. We have until 5 p.m. today to submit written testimony. And please remember that anything you do submit for the public record does become searchable on the internet, so please do not include contact information or any personal information that you wish to keep private and secure. And to my fellow state senators here, thank you so much for hanging. I hope we can all now stand up, take a deep breath, stretch, and I look forward to seeing you all socially distant on Friday as well. With that, we are adjourned.